Hi everyone, welcome to ELI, the place where you get your daily dose of inspiration for entrepreneurship. And today we have with us Mr. Pankit Desai, the co-founder of Secure Tech, a cyber security venture. Before starting his venture, Pankit had worked for companies such as IBM, Cognizant, Wipro, Entity Data, and Rolta India. Hi Pankit, welcome to ELI.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, Priya.
Pankit, I would request you to introduce yourself to our audience, please.
I think you already done the hard part of explaining who I am, but just for the audience sake, I'm a first generation entrepreneur. Spent over 20 years in the corporate world, and I've spent fair amount of time across various parts of the country and the globe. So I started my career in Ahmedabad, was in Bombay, Delhi, Bangalore, Chennai, and then decided to move to the US. Was in the US for 12 years between Phoenix, San Diego, New Jersey, and came back in 2012 and joined Rolta. And then a year and a half later started SecureTech. So it's been an amazing experience being part of the corporate world. But as I can now relate after having started SecureTech is that the experience that a startup or entrepreneurship gives you is very different than what a corporate world would be. And the only regret I have is that why did I not start it earlier?
Tell us about SecureTech. What does it do?
So SecureTech was formed with a vision to simplify security by consolidating the IT security tech landscape. Uh, Traditionally, what happens in security is that every time there is a problem, a new security product kind of comes out, and which makes it very difficult for enterprises to really understand what they need, or how they should buy, how to implement, manage, and run. And we felt that as a late starter, maybe we could do something different here. So instead of building a product, can we build a platform? Can we bring multiple of these technologies together and thereby reduce the complexity that is attached to implementing security? And with that aim in mind, we came out with a set of products that at this point of time combine 12 plus technologies into three. And sometime later this year, they will get into one. And the areas that we solve problems for security are in, as we call it, the problem of the forest and the problem of the trees. So from a forest perspective, as far as the enterprises are concerned, it is the high level view of their overall threat landscape. So we are able to identify threats across the enterprise in real time, and then through a technology that allows us to mitigate the threats as well. And then from a trees perspective, the trees, as far as the enterprises are concerned, is the employees and the users and the devices, sorry. And for the devices, we have a set of product that allows the devices to stay secure, the laptops, desktops, and servers. And for the users, it is the ability for them to really control who has access to what. So that's what we do, trying to get the high level view and the bottoms up view all getting covered through a combination of three products. And as I mentioned, combining into a single product towards the end of this year, early next year.
Okay. Uh, so, when did you think of becoming an entrepreneur? How did this transition happen?
So in 2005, when I left Wipro, I joined a private equity-backed company called as IntelliGroup, a mid-market company. The company wasn't doing well, and when the private equity acquired them, they decided to bring a new team out to turn the company around. And that was my first experience in my, that time I was for 12, 13 years in the industry. First time I was working for a relatively smaller company, and it was almost like a mini entrepreneurial journey. And because you're part of a core team, you take a set of decisions that allow you to fundamentally change the direction of the company. And we were, by God's grace, able to turn the company around, and after 5 years sell the company to Entity Data, in turn giving the investors a significant return. In fact, they were able to make about 5x the return within 5 years. So for the first time, I've got a feeling that if you were to work for a relatively small company, or even better, if you were to start your own company, you have the ability to fundamentally transform an organization and create value and wealth for everyone who's part and parcel of the ecosystem. So that is the journey that we as an organization thought that we could make if we were to form a company and then uh, create a value for everyone who's involved in the process. My partner Anand, he came from a security background and he had seen that industry up close. So his ideas around security problems, which I just explained earlier, and my experience with turning the company around, together we felt that maybe this is the space to target, and we build an organization that can scale and in turn create a valued company out of India.
Okay. Once you had taken the plunge and decided to start your company, what were the initial few days like? How did you bring all the pieces together in the initial days?
You have a business plan, but seldom that business plan gets executed upon, right? I mean, you have your own imagination of how it's going to look like. The reality is going to be very different, and the same thing was with us. Um, the initial process, obviously, there's a lot of exuberance, a lot of energy that you have, that you are going to build out an organization and you're trying to explore some things that can, some things can fly, some things won't fly. But for us, the biggest thing that we, were confident about is the fact that both Anand and I come from a fairly deep industry background. We knew that we were going to create a company that is not just going to think like a startup, but we will take the agility of the startup, but we want to build an organization. So the corporate constructs and structures were always part and parcel of it. So we never shied away from building a team. I mean, in fact, for a very long time, the feedback for us always used to be that you are too top heavy, but we were very clear that we are going to build an organization that would last. And then any startup, the success is only if you're able to get customers. So from very, very early days, we were very clear that we are going to get the first set of money outside of ours, right, as founders, is going to be customers' money. And I was very happy to see within about 2.5 months of us starting the company, we were able to secure our first customers. Even in our first truncated financial year, we were able to generate some revenue, which was a good sign that, hey, something that we were trying to offer to the market, there was a value attached to it and someone willing to pay for it.
What were some of the challenges you faced along the way while building and growing this venture?
So security is a trust business. I mean, you have to earn trust from your customers. No one is going to give uh, protection of their crown jewels to someone who's very new to the market. So the biggest challenge that we had to overcome was this deficit of trust. So how do we go about working with the market to give them confidence that this new company off the block has the wherewithal to help them on their security journey and essentially be the guardians of security? So that was the first problem to overcome. Second is, you are a new company, so how are you going to attract talent? There are this large behemoths that exist in the security space. How do you make sure that you find a voice for yourself that people are willing to join? And third is, how do you make sure that at appropriate points of times you get right sets of partners, whether it is the market facing partners or the funding partners that can join on your journey? So that's the challenge that all startups have to undergo. The only difference in this our case is there's also this element of trust that we had to overcome.
Okay. Uh, in a service business like yours, people play a big part in the existence of the venture. Uh, how did you select the right people to execute your vision and take your vision forward?
So the initial set of people who became part of the journey, and by the way, we do both products and services. So we have a set of security products and we also offer services around them. The set of people who became part of our journey were folks who we knew from our past lives. So these were people who, well, for lack of a better word, tried and tested from a relationship point of view. People who saw the same vision as us, people who were in some ways risk takers. They were leaving their own corporate jobs to become part of a journey with us. It is these kinds of individuals that we had to identify. And then once a core team comes in, then start building the organization, right? There's a nice couplet from Majul Sultanpuri, which says that मैं अकेला ही चला था जानी बेमंजिल मगर लोग जुड़ते गए और कारवां बढ़ता गया. something like that. Right? You start alone, and then you have people joining, and then over a period of time, it kind of becomes a self-running, self-fulfilling organization.
Okay, interesting. Um, Now I would like to understand what is the vision you have for SecureTech, where you want to take it, probably 10 years down the line from now.
Yeah, so two parts. One, security is an enterprise and a citizens or a user's problem, but it is also a national problem. By which I mean is that depending on where you are as a organization, where means physically where you are. If you are in India, if you are in UAE, if you are in Germany, if you are in US, depending on where you are, your security problems will change. Who attacks you, what's happening in your geopolitical dynamics, all has a role to play in how security manifests itself. India had a recent skirmish with China, and suddenly the number of and kinds of attack from Chinese cyber hackers onto India just shot up, right? I mean, now the same set of attacks may not have happened between hackers from China to some other country. So security is always contextual. And unfortunately for India, for the size and scale that the country has, we are very heavily dependent for security for external providers. And these providers will take care of their geographic challenges and problems depending on where they are, but not look at your specific issues. So we were very clear, and we are very clear that we want to be that company that meets first and foremost India's security needs, and then extends that same capability to the external world. Second vision for us is that in the global market, India is known for tech, but tech services. We are not that known for products, and we are just not known for security products. So the kind of mindshare that an Israel has, or a UK has, or a US has for security products, India doesn't have. So we want to be that company that fundamentally shifts that thought process that, hey, you can have a world-class company coming out of India. And last but not the least, if in the process we can make this world a better and a more security, hygiene, safe space, then that would be our contribution to the world.
Okay. Speaking more on the aspect you just mentioned, the mindset of security, especially in the Indian context, I also agree that Indian people are not very conscious about the security aspect of the IT uses they are having. Uh, would you like to comment upon the fact that how we can improve as a country or as a society on the IT security aspect?
Great question. So security always follows a trajectory of how technology gets consumed in the market space. Um, if you are a technologically backward company or a country, security impact will be lesser. And so, if you don't have internet, if you're not using PCs, if you're not using smartphones, security impacts will be very different in nature. India has, over the last 5, 6 years, leapfrogged itself into a very connected world. We are the second largest country by the consumptions of smartphones. We have, I think, the third or the fourth highest numbers of broadband connection. We have probably the cheapest bandwidth ever anywhere in the world. In this COVID times, the amount of time people are spending on internet and consuming content, as I think now is close to about 6.5 hours to 7 hours of the latest estimates per day. So in this connected context, you really have a potential risk around security. Unfortunately for India, majority of the users aren't either tech savvy, and most of them are not security savvy. And that is why we are seeing a lot of security challenges that are emanating right now as consumers and citizens are getting impacted big time. I think a couple of things one can do. One is a sustained campaign by the agencies involved to really drive awareness. I can give you an example of what I mean. Um, if I don't know, you probably are too young, but in the late 90s, early 2000s, India had faced a lot of potential terrorist attacks where they were leaving this in a small bag. They will keep a bomb and leave it at the airport or a railway station or in a bus, and people will be curious and they will open the bag, and you will have an incident. A sustained campaign was carried out, and if you now see at any place, people see a suitcase or a bag lying, the first thing they will do is they'll call the police. They will not touch it, right? Because it has been now ingrained that an unidentified object is most likely going to be a security risk, right? So a campaign like that changed that behavior. If you look at in the COVID times, the amount, if you moment you dial a phone, the first thing you get is a COVID message, right? Wash your hands, sanitize, social distancing, take vaccines, all of that, right? So it is something like this, to that degree, needs to be articulated and put across to users about the potential risks of their actions that they can take in the internet connected world that can have a potential risk. So that is on the one side. Second, what is missing in India is a legal framework. A Data Privacy Regulation Act is supposed to be in the parliament. It was to have passed in 18, then in 19, then in 20, now we're in 21. I think it's high time that we have a regulatory framework that comes into play, because the companies that are in this space, whether it's the social media companies or the internet companies, today they do not have any fear of a regulatory pushback if they were to potentially abuse our data or do something around it. So the law needs to be there, and it has to have teeth so that the providers whose services that the Indian population is using can be held accountable.
Pankit, as an entrepreneur, you must have gone through some failures throughout your journey. Can you highlight some of the failures you had recently?
So ups and downs, failures are a part and parcel of a journey. Um, as they say in the startup world, fail but fail early. So we're fairly good in trying out newer things, and we identify for ourselves things that needs to happen in a very short period of time. And if they don't, we basically stop it. As an example, we had said that because we are in security and we hire a lot of talent, why don't we go and set up our own training institute so we can train people and then we can bring them on board. Within 4 months, we realized we are not good at it. It's not our cup of tea. We would rather work with the university, give them the curriculum. So we shut down the institute and we transferred the curriculum and we gave it to a few colleges free of cost. We train those colleges, and yeah, we take kids from those colleges, but kids also get benefited and they can go and join somewhere else. So these are decisions like these that we can take, and we have the luxury to take as a startup, that you can try out things that on the face value may look good, but for whatever reason may not work out. But as I mentioned, we were very clear that we will have a set of metrics that we will measure ourselves against. And the moment we don't hit them, we will just stop it and go to something else.
What are the lessons you have learned as an entrepreneur which can shorten the learning curve of other entrepreneurs who are listening to you right now?
So one misnomer that all entrepreneurs have is, I have a great idea and someone will give you money. It doesn't work that way. The best money that you can get for yourself is the money that comes from the customer. So after your money, try and see if you can get a customer money. Don't focus too much on the investor's money. They will come only when they will see customers. You rather spend time in acquiring customers versus going after investors. That's point number one. Point number two is, there is nothing like a perfect product. So try and see if you can get probably half baked is a wrong word, but a minimum viable product, a more nicer name for a half baked product. Get an MVP and try and see if you can get someone to bite onto the MVP. Even better is if you can build that MVP with a customer in mind. So it's ideally be great to get a customer to be part of that MVP journey, because then you know that what you're building as an actual use case that is going to get consumed. Third, don't start alone. Always try and see if you can have a partner on the journey. It's a very, very lonely and sometimes a depressing journey. You need a partner who you can share with and who can become part of the journey. Fourth, get a great team with you. right? So try and see, it sounds very obvious, but not everyone is cut out to be part of a startup journey. There are a lot of uncertainties, fair amount of risk, and days when you really struggle for cash. So it's important that you get the right set of people other than the founders who become part of the journey. Fifth, please make sure that there is nothing like revenue and gross margin. The only thing that a startup needs to worry about is cash flow, right? Cash is the only king that one has to understand, right? So margins and revenue and all of that is completely useless if you do not get a vehicle by which money comes in, and that's the money that goes out. So cash flow and an understanding of cash flow is important. And lastly, most startups I have seen struggle in the compliance and some of the regulatory aspects. We ourselves made a lot of mistakes early on in that space. Unfortunately, in India, the ease of doing business is only on paper, it is not in action. Whether you are a startup or you're a 1,000 crore company, the norms remain the same. And it will come back to bite you if you do not really understand those activities fairly quickly. So, in fairly early cycle, try and see what are the regulatory norms that you need to be worried about and need to work upon, and fairly quickly start executing on those.
Pankit, if just imagine if you encounter a time machine and you can go back 20 years back to your your 20s or probably your school days, how different your journey will be after that point if you can go back in time.
I wouldn't change anything. I wouldn't change anything. As I said, the only change I would make, if at all, was it's been now 7 years that we started this company. If I could rewind and maybe claw back 5 6 years and start it a bit early. Uh, but other than that, I have had a great run, great set of parents who supported me all through my life, an amazing spouse who's agreed to shoulder the responsibility and the risk that comes with a startup. Great sets of friends and colleagues who have supported. In fact, and you'll realize when you have a startup, and specifically you come from the corporate world, if you have made good relationships during your work life, they all become a great starting point in the startup. So for us, a lot of investors that we have are former friends, colleagues, classmates. A lot of our customers are people who we have done business with or who we know from our past lives. So it makes your journey much, much easier if you have built that network over a period of time. So I would not change anything from where I've come from, just maybe a few years early in terms of starting this out.
Pankit, given a choice, would you rather choose to go with hire and fire strategy or move very slowly as a venture? What would you choose and why?
A difficult one to answer. Um, I would say if things are not working out, a clinical cut is important. Um, Especially in a startup, you have very, very limited resources. A misfit hire, and I'm not saying misfit because the person is bad, but just that what you are trying to do, that individual is not fitting that norm. So maybe the problem is with you or the role. But irrespective, the two of you can't work together. Um, you have two problems. One, that individual is unhappy and is not contributing. So you are losing out time and money. And maybe you should have hired someone else who could have contributed. So getting hit on both sides. So to the extent, try and see if you can get to a conversation that allows you to understand why it is not working fairly quickly. And if both of you agree, then decide very quickly. Hanging on to something for a very long time and not taking a decision will impact you in the long run. And we are guilty of doing it at SecureTech. So we have made some of those mistakes of prolonging the agonies. We had not taken decisions in the past at the pace at which we should, considering, maybe we have a relationship with the individual or we know them for long, or maybe they're a good person at heart, but they were not working out. And, we burn precious resources. and which in turn is detrimental to the organization.
So this is probably my last question. What would you rather go with, sustainability or profitability?
Profitability. At the end, that's what matters. Right? You can't be doing a business that has no line to profitability. I'm a big believer that that's the only way you can build sustainable organization. Right? I mean, there is no unlimited capital that exists in the world. Yeah, there may be a few exceptions, but for majority of the startups and anyone most likely listening to the podcast and this interview, most of which will be in the same boat, you have to generate cash. And if that's not your focus, then most likely you will not be sustainable.
Pankit, on this note, I am done with the questions. If any final message you have for our audience, you can share now. Otherwise, we are done with the questions.
Thank you, Priya. See, the only thing I will say is that there is, if it is in you, and you have the passion, um, go for this journey. Jobs as it is are very difficult to come by in these economies today, the way lives are. And if your age is on your side, if you are relatively younger in age, which means you have lesser responsibilities of family and other things, you will also have the right levels of energies that you will need to run a startup. Start early is what I would say. You will have a great experience. If nothing else, that experience that you would have gotten by starting your own business and running it will be of great help if you were to go back to a corporate life if you really need to. That journey is much better. You start something of your own, you try, maybe you fail, you didn't work out. But if you are going to join a corporate world after that, that experience will come of great help to you. So start and start early.
Okay, Pankit. On this note, I would like to close this session. It was a great pleasure to host you here at ALI, and our best wishes for Secure Tech.
Thank you so much, man. You have a good one. Take care. Bye bye.